The Archbishop of Canterbury has praised the emergency services in his New Year message, saying the depth of suffering this year was matched by the depth of compassion shown. Justin Welby delivered his message for 2018 from the London Ambulance Services Special Operations Centre, which responds to major incidents in the capital. So how important
I will never forget the image of a group of unarmed police officers sprinting flat out towards Borough Market, as so many were running in the opposite direction. So often in 2017, the depth of suffering was matched by a depth of compassion as communities came together.
We love Manchester! We love Manchester! We love UK!
So how important is faith in Britain in 2018? Well, we're joined now by Reverend Sally Hitchener, Senior Chaplain at Brunel University, and also today by Keith Porteous-Wood from the National Secular Society. It's great to have you both on the programme, and of course, Happy New Year. Sally, let's start with you. Is this New Year address by the Anglican leader, broadcast nationally, of course, on television, is it still relevant for us today?
Well, I think the Archbishop's message is that there is light even when there's darkness, and that's something, and that we can all be sources of light. And one of the things that he's very clear in is that that is not necessarily just confined to any particular belief or any particular faith, but actually what we've seen is both in the emergency services and in ordinary individuals who've responded to acts of terrorism or things like the tragedy in the Grenfell Tower, is that all of us can act in a way that brings light even in dark times, and I think that's more relevant than ever. Keith,
what do you think? I mean, listening to Justin Welby, who, let's face it, is a fantastic speaker, whether you're a Christian or not, can you not take comfort in what he's saying, that the compassion of communities, that's something for us to be really energised and feel good about after what's been a terrible year?
Yes, no, there's absolutely nobody who would disagree with that at all. But there's also some problems about how compassionate the church is being, for example, to gay people. When the Archbishop of Canterbury led the House of Lords begging them not to agree for same-sex marriage, and they ignored him.
Do you think he's being a hypocrite in this message?
I would never use that word, but I think he needs to look to his own situation. And similarly with
so what's your
a lot of
problem
abuse advisors, some abuse survivors are coming to us in desperation, of Anglican abuse advisors whose lives have been ruined, in absolute desperation at the failure of the church to give them any kind of decent compensation.
What is your problem with the message? Would you rather it didn't exist at all? The New Year's Day message?
Well, nothing can stop him doing that. I think it's given too much prominence. I'd like to see a lot more coming from community leaders, mayors, people in, say, the police, the rescue services themselves, charity leaders, those kind of people actually telling us like it really is.
I mean, Keith raises a fair point, doesn't he? Keith, you've got the statistics I haven't in terms of the number of churchgoers in the UK. I'm sure you know that too, Sally. But maybe there is space for other religious leaders or people of non-faith to be talking on a day like today about the future.
There is, absolutely. And we've seen even figures like Brandon Cox, who are an incredibly eloquent voice of someone. So the husband of the late Joe Cox, who is a MP who was brutally murdered, but who regularly speaks out and from a non-religious perspective in a way that, and I think we need more voices than ever speaking out, encouraging everybody to do their bit to try and bring the light and the hope that they can in whatever circumstances they are. And actually, as an openly gay priest and as the leader of the largest religious society supporting LGBT religious people in the UK, I think that actually the issues are more complex. So I don't think it's as easy as just saying, oh, the Archbishop of Canterbury is hypocritical. I think there are issues.
Which I didn't.
Which you didn't, actually.
Suggestion.
But I think that there are challenges to be made within every different organisation, and we all need to grow to become more aware of things like race and gender and sexuality. And I don't know any organisation that hasn't got anything to learn. And I think there is a huge amount to learn in the church, but there is also a huge amount of good that the church is doing on all sorts of areas, whether it's running food banks, whether
I happily agree with that.
We don't have the monopoly of that, but don't hear me wrong. There are huge amounts of other organisations that are also doing a great deal of good. But I think what's important is that we look for the good rather than actually, to quote something religious, than that to pick the speck from our brother's eye and miss the plank that's in our own eye.
I think the two examples I gave were quite big.
Well, they are important, and I think it's very important that we raise them, and particularly the issues of both child abuse, which are ongoing needs in every institution in the country. And in fact, what we've seen even in the last year and the last few years is that there is no institution that is immune from that we all need to be reflective of that, and definitely the church has got to hold up its hands and has held up its hands. And
not
Justin Welby's
anything like as much as it should have done.
Well, we still have work to do.
The wall of silence and the refusal to pay money, even by Justin Welby himself. There's been an appeal to him directly, and all we've had is warm words, but not one more penny has been paid.
And I think there is going to be a discussion about that in General Synod, and I'm part of the push and the drive to have more serious discussions
Perhaps
about what we can do.
Perhaps we can both appeal to him.
Well, I think there is ongoing work, and I don't feel that Justin is on the other side of that. I think that when you're running a very large institution, as I'm sure you know from your work in the National Secular Society, there are things you have to hold in place that mean that you have to navigate your way through these things in a very difficult way. But I think what's important is that the church is moving forward, potentially inching forward at times, but there are individuals like me within the church who are pushing these things ahead.
Okay.
And I think it's important to say that the church still has a voice that is relevant and has something to say to society.
We need to leave it there. Thank you very much, Reverend Sally Hitchener and Keith Porteous-Wood. Thanks for your time this afternoon.